We were just commenting how I can't believe we're already at the end of August. It felt like just the other day we were doing this planning call for the month of August. And I don't know about you, but yeah, there's been a lot in the last couple of weeks and a lot of transitions probably happening for a lot of people, whether you have kids at home still or not. It just feels like changes in the air around this time of year, and we're all ready for something a little bit different. So before we dive in today, I want to start with some wins as you kind of look back. It could be over the past month of August, or I'll let you kind of go back through June. So we'll kind of take it could just be August or it could be all the way back to June. What was something that you are so glad that you found time for this summer? Could be related to business, could be related to something in life. What was something, or maybe if you've got two that are kind of right up there that you want to share both of them. What's something that you're so excited? You're welcome to put it in the chat or unmute. But I thought it'd be fun to just kind of see, what have you been making time for over the past couple of months? What matters? Mary, do you have something you want to share?
Well, really, I've been trying to catch up at work, so I'm glad I have. Actually, it's been something I've been chopping away at for a while, so that feels good.
Yeah.
Putting there.
Good. Yeah. Sometimes it's not the joy in the actual thing, but it's the joy in knowing that you're accomplishing or getting further or whatever that is. So that can be a good thing. Anybody else have something that comes up? Danielle, you're on mute. So if you unmute, I'm going to assume you're raising your hand. So
for me, it's been not specifically a thing, but the Sabbath during the summer. Like, I can't tell you, since starting this program and going through the book during first quarter, like how much I look forward to not working on Sundays. Like I've worked on Sundays for years. And so it's just so nice to be able to, this Sunday I decorated my house and I've been working on a baby blanket and I've been reading books, and it's just nice to have that time, that whatever like relaxing thing you want to do, or refreshing, or refilling thing, to have that space in your calendar intentionally to do has been really amazing this summer.
Yeah. So Mary and Rochelle, we read a book in quarter one in the CEO group called The Rest of God. Sorry, I had to look at the title, by Mark Buchanan. And it's really good, not just about Sabbath as in the day, but Sabbathing with our time. But he did talk a lot about, Sabbath, that practice of that day. And so it was something that we were challenged to, and just, do I trust God with the other 6 days of the week, such that if I live by the rhythm that he built in from all the way back in Genesis 1, that there will be still more than enough time to do all the things that he's called me to. And we live in this culture. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that places were closed on Sundays, and once we're always seem to be like, the only time I think of Chick-fil-A, because we don't have one in our town, is on a Sunday when we happen to be driving home from, a wedding or something like that. I'm always like, I'm so glad, of course, they're not open and they're honoring that. But yeah, how often are we either working on business stuff, right, on a Sunday? I used to be a huge time for me getting ready for the week. And even in the morning before going to church, I'm like, oh, the house is quiet. People are sleeping in. I can get all this stuff done. And I found it just made my heart I was always kind of like this. And so, or the other thing we can do is just be like, okay, I'm going to catch up in the laundry and the grocery store and whatever. And I'm not blaming or shaming or anything like that. But that Sabbathing is to trust God with our time and rest in him and let him refill us as the first day of the week, so that we have something to pour out, just like the refills that we talk about, right? Sunday is our refill for the week. And so I'm so glad that you've been making time for that and seeing the difference in that. That's beautiful. Okay, so as we're thinking about going into fall, what is something that really matters that you want to make sure that you make time for? Could be directly in this next month of September we're talking about, or it could kind of continue over the next couple of months. What's something specific that you're like, okay, this matters, and I want to make sure that I find the time for this?
I'm going to jump in and say that it's not a work-related thing, because most of my things are work-related right now, and house remodeling related. So I'm going to say health, in terms of I'm pretty consistent about my workouts. But food wise, finding time to do the meal prep and that, that's slips by wayside.
Yeah, a very important thing. I would highly recommend, I'll just give you a quick little plug for something we do when we build our ideal week time template. When we know something like that is recurring, hello, you have to eat every day, right? You have to grocery shop at least once a week and things like that. Building that time into your weekly plan so that it's not just kind of the randomness where then, yes, we're gonna like, default to what's either a drive-through or what's convenient or, what feels crunchy and munchy or, things like that. So, yes, making time for that is important. And when we decide ahead of time, this is when I'm going to give this time, then I don't have to run back and forth to the grocery store every 2 days because I wasn't thinking ahead. For me, it's on Thursday nights. I lay out my meal plan for the next day. I make my grocery order, love Instacart. Like that is I absolutely love it. It saved me so much time. And then when I either do errands on Saturday or Friday or Saturday, then I do my pickup. And then I, do all the unloading and prep and stuff like that needs to be done. But yeah, and so when you get into those rhythms, yes, there's some weeks that, something's happening, so I need to switch it, but that's great. I love that, Mary, because it matters. Somebody else, one other person, something you want to make sure you make time for in this next season.
Yeah,
Rochelle.
we are as it's starting to cool down just a tad, we love bonfires. My hubby and I, we love bonfires and sitting outside and so yeah, making time for that. And yeah, just I'm thankful for the time spent with friends that I needed to this last month. Just kind of purposely once a month bunko with community friends. And I think I was gonna go see a friend go play in her band at a restaurant at the end of this month. But just planning, those get-togethers, I think really is rejuvenating for me because I've been busy kind of.
Yeah. And those are the things we have to plug in ahead. So I'm going to encourage you when we get to that part
Yes.
tonight, put that in your calendar now as best you can, at least the bonfires, since you probably know what your schedules look like for that. Maybe not stuff that you have to connect with other ladies about, but yeah, put that stuff on the calendar because otherwise it's just kind of becomes one of those one day, someday things that we just never seem to really get around to. So, well, good. Well, here's the reason why I'm asking is because so often women are walking around saying, if I could find the time, when I find the time, if only I could find the time. And, we're just reacting a lot. And then things are falling through the cracks that really do matter and that we really want to give time to. And yet we get distracted by all these other things. And this is this time of year where how many of you love to like go to like Target or Staples and like go through like, like the aisle where it's like the planners and the pens and the little Post-its and, like all the fun little office-y things, back to school for them, maybe office-y for us. And it's like, oh, this is like so exciting and stuff like that. Except here's the thing. You can make it look really pretty. You can have all the, bells and whistles and things like that. But if you still don't think you have time or enough of it, that's not going to keep you organized. It's not really going to help you find the time. And you guys know, you've been around me enough. Where do we actually find the time? It's in here and in here. Right? It's the head and the heart first. Then we pick up the really cute calendars and all those things that are coming out. So all that to say, if you are not yet registered for the Find the Time Challenge, it's happening the rest of this week, Tuesday through Friday. We'll be going live on this exact same Zoom link at 12 o'clock Central Time. If you register, let me put the registration in the chat so that way you can grab the link if you haven't already at redeemhertime.com/time. Then I will email you reminders and I'll email you replays and I'll email you, all the goodies and stuff like that you need so that you can get the most out of the challenge, right? And we are going to really uncover the time that we've been praying for. And again, I'm just going to tell you, it's not hiding somewhere out there. This is what Danielle and I were talking about. It's what's going on inside of here. And I think this is the message that we need to hear about our time as we head into a new season. So I encourage you, register for yourself, invite friends. Like, who do you know, whoever says, life is busy, I don't have time, when I have time, if only I had time, I wish I could find the time, where did the time go, anything like that. Like, I put an email out the other day and I said, if you're a woman and you only have 24 hours to get everything in, this is for you. Especially those of us who have a business or a ministry or we're leading in some way, or we just want to be intentional. Like we just want to be like, Lord, I want to be faithful with the 24 hours you've given me. I can't make more, no matter how much we wish for that extra hour in our day. It doesn't ever come except for that one day a year when we get daylight savings and they take it away from us on the opposite one. So we have to give it back again, right? But it doesn't change our life, right? That one hour, because it's really about what's going on inside. So if you haven't registered, go to redeemhertime.com/time and register. And please, before you go to bed tonight, or, right before when we get off this call, like think of one or two people like, hey, I just registered for this. You should come to this. And there's replays if you can't be on live, right? So there's time is not an excuse, right? And that's what we're actually working on. So if somebody says they're too busy, be like, yes, exactly. That's why you need to be here. So looking forward to that. Also, speaking of planners, some of you have seen this, but the Redeem Her Time prototype arrived in the mail last week, and I'm super excited about it. So be watching your email, because I will be sending out information in September to be part of my launch team, which means A, you get early access, and B, you're going to help me share with other people, right? So it's a win-win. And I think you're going to love this, because let me show you this. Every single month, there is exactly what we are doing tonight. Right page here, right in between every single month. There's a brain dump page, and then the planning. I made it a little bit simpler to go on one sheet in here. So it's going to be all right in here. Plus, you're going to have every other tool that we talk about and use right here at your fingertips. So I'm really excited about how this is going to help with us just being intentional, with our time. And this is not going to be a planner that you like buy and then you use for a couple of weeks and then you put off to the side. Because I keep triggering you as we go. Okay, now it's time to check in with this. Okay, now we're going to add to this. Okay, now we're going to do this. I had my friend told me the other day, she's like, for the last 3 years in a row, she's bought, I can't remember the name of it, some like influencer's planner, and she buys it and she gets it all ready and she uses it for 2 weeks and it gets in a pile and she forgets about it. And then the next year she buys it and she uses it for 2 weeks. It goes in a pile and she forgets about it. And then like literally the third year, I was like, seriously, tell me you did not buy it the third year. She's like, I bought it the third year. And I was like, girl, so anyway, I told her, hey, when you are in here, we're not going to let you go, which is also why we have these calls and stuff like that. They're helping with us. So be watching for that, because that'll be a really great thing to be a part of. The last thing I just want to share with you guys before we get into what we're doing for looking ahead, and some of you heard this if you're already working with me in the CEO program, is just how we approach planning. And as I was preparing some stuff for myself for something, and then also for my CEOs in our conversation we were having today, I was looking at Proverbs 16, and I'm going to read these 2 verses to you from the Passion Translation, because it just brought a new, fresh perspective on it. So you can read it in any translation. They all say essentially the same thing, just in a little bit different way. But sorry, I was about to read it on my iPad, but no, it's on my phone. So let me wake that guy up. Okay, so verse 1 says, "Go ahead and make all the plans you want." Guess what? That is not a period at the end of that. There's a comma, but it's the Lord who will ultimately direct your steps. Let me read that again. Go ahead and make all the plans you want, comma, but it's the Lord who will ultimately direct your steps. And verses 1 through 9 are all about wisdom from the Lord in making our plans, right? And how he's in the midst of us, and he tests and probes our motives. And before we do anything, that we need to trust in him and not in ourselves. And he works everything according to accomplish his purpose, even the wicked, and all these things that are in here. And then it ends this section with verse 9. It says, "Within your heart, you can make plans for your future, comma, but the Lord chooses the steps you take to get there." What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful reminder, right? Of how we approach our time, because there is our active part of doing the planning. He doesn't say just like throw everything to the wind and hope it all comes out okay and hope that, you end up where you want to go. It's like, so, I mean, how many of us like just go jump in the car and just go for a joyride and hope we're going to end up where someone's going to Florida soon, right? Like, and hope we end up like in Orlando. It's probably not going to work, right? Like we have intention, we make plans for those trips. Sometimes do we get rerouted because of accidents or construction or a tourist trap that we found or some other place we want to stop? Yes. But God is ultimately the one that's directing, as we go. So let's start. If you don't have the Planning with God sheet in front of you, you can just use a piece of paper, or you can go to redeemhertime.com/plan. And literally, you don't have to enter anything and wait for any email. Like it's going to pop you right on that page. So let me put that in the chat just in case those of you who are on here want that, because sometimes it's nice to have something to like fill in, or at least have visually in front of you. We're going to start with our pause. Okay, so this is a prayerful pause, because I don't know about you. A lot of things have been going on in my day, my weekend, the month. I have a lot of things going on this week with the challenge and all the things that are coming after that. And sometimes we just need to pause and take that Selah. In fact, Danielle, you were talking about Sabbath in the planner. You're going to get a couple sticker sheets There are Sabbath stickers and there are Selah stickers. So as that way to mark off that day or that time and say, nope, already filled. This is Sabbath time or this is Selah rest time. So we always start this then with our Selah pause, taking that Selah breath, right? Like getting present with where we are and in the Lord's presence with us. And I give you space here to jot down if there's something that you feel like the Lord is just, maybe he's just whispering it. Maybe he's been yelling it. Ruthie, we were talking about this morning. Sometimes God yells things and he's got to keep saying it louder and louder till we kind of go, okay, I get it. I got it. You know, like, so I'll give you a minute. I'll be quiet. What are you hearing? And, or it's okay if that's a blank space. Sometimes it's just, I need some space right now and white space is okay. So I'll give you a minute for that and then we'll move on. Okay, our second P is position. And this is so cool because I just had somebody send me an email about a journal that's called the Word of the Year Journal. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. I met with this gal. It's a totally crazy story. She worked with the same lady to print her journal that I worked with to print my planner. So that was really a cool God thing. But she's going to be on the podcast in a couple of months talking about just the value of picking a word of the year. So whether your word in the position one is a word of the year that you've been hanging on to, and this is now going into month 9 and it's still the same word, or maybe it's one that's just been in this season and then, you know, you're carrying it through into the next month, or maybe it's just like, you know what? I feel like God's just kind of putting this new word on my heart and this is where I'm supposed to focus. I want you to write down your word. Okay. Now it could be like 2 words, but we're not talking a sentence. Like we want something super short and simple because this is what I call like our banner word. Right. So when you get going and your head is down and you're so focused on just one step after the next and you look up and you want to make sure you're going in the right direction, it's like you can see this banner up ahead and it's guiding you. Right. So if your word is peace, right, what a great reminder to like, as you are making choices with your time, as you're making choices with your money, as you're making choices with your business or your ministry or relationship, like, is this leading me towards peace? If not, then maybe that's not a wise investment. So I want you to write your word. And then scale of 1 to 10, no shame, no judgment in the story. How aligned are you to that word right now? I didn't allow you to say 0 on here. You're somewhere on the scale, right? I'm guessing most of us are not 10 because we always have room to grow, but just kind of evaluate. I mean, it's arbitrary, right? Scale of 1 to 10. How aligned are you to that word? And then in just a minute, I would love to just kind of hear what your word is right now. Again, some of you I know have been continuing with words and I love that. And some of you may have something new. So does anyone want to share what your current word is going into the month of September? Go ahead, Rochelle.
That verse came to mind, my grace is sufficient and my power is made perfect in weakness. So grace, because there's a lot of challenging things going on within our family, with our girls, with my husband. And so I think grace, you know, I think is what the Lord is showing me that I need to have grace, even with myself.
Yeah,
where I beat
I would say
myself
grace
up.
covers everything, right? Like
Yes.
you want something that's going to hit in every area of your life and
Yes.
really go deep. Grace, grace. There are a
Oh
lot of
my
other words that
goodness.
could do that, but yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So-
Anybody else? What's the word that's guiding you as we head into a new month?
Mine is the same that as what I felt God gave me at the beginning of the year, which is align and overflow. And I put myself as a 4, mostly because, well, I don't know, that felt like the right number, but I'm kind of in a season of like pulling out to kind of realign before I plug back in, really just kind of trying to evaluate with fresh eyes where he's moving and what he's doing and
Yeah.
making sure that I'm positioned correctly.
Yeah. Which, like you just said, does not mean you're not aligned, but you actually
Right.
are aligning, right? It's an ongoing process of continuing to be in alignment, which means checking in on where we're at. So I love that. I love that. Okay, the third one is our patterns. And I think a lot of times we don't stop to really notice these things, right? We just keep going and keep going and keep going and then wonder why we have the results or the lack of results that we have. So for example, Mary, you were talking about making time for health this month, right? This might be a great one that you want to just pick a specific area of your life. So Mary, you could look at this one and say, okay, now I want you to notice your habits. What habits am I going to commence, AKA start in my health? What habits am I going to continue? Because like you said, there are some good things that you're doing. You're already consistently doing your workout, I think is what you had shared, right? And what's a habit in my health that I want to cease? I want to cut this guy off because it's not moving me in that direction. Okay. So if you guys want to choose one area, maybe it's in your business, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's in something around your home or your wellness or money or, whatever, you can do that. Or you can just kind of do it more in general and kind of say, okay, what am I noticing? What are things that I want to start? What are things that I want to keep doing? What are things that I want to stop? Okay. This one's an optional one. If anyone wants to share something that's in there, you're more than welcome to. Sometimes it's good to have to speak it out loud, but that is up to you.
Yeah, the thing that I wanted to commence is to journal. I used to journal a lot, and I know I'm just going through a lot. So I know getting my thoughts and emotions on paper and getting it out. I mean, yes, I pray, but there's something about journaling my prayers that really is cleansing and, getting off my chest, just kind of, yeah. So journaling is one of the things that I wanted to start
For
back.
sure. Yeah. It helps me to focus. And then you've got something to go back to, right? To be like, wow, look where I was, or look what God did, or,
Yes.
just kind of to review where things have been as you kind of look back at your growth over a season. So I love that. It's a good one. Danielle says, commence resistance training 3 times a week. Love it. Continue evening reflection and cease picking up my phone first thing in the morning. So you can actually depending on what kind of phone you have, I know this is on the iPhone. I don't know what kind of phone you have, but under the settings, when you go to screen time, it actually shows what time you pick up your phone and what's the first thing you go to. I think that's really interesting. Number one, what time am I picking it up? Because it's one thing if I'm picking it up to turn off an alarm or I'm picking it up to open my Bible, as long as that's really where I'm going, right? It's another thing if it's like, oh, wow, I'm noticing the first thing I'm picking up at this time and the first thing I'm going to is Facebook and I haven't picked up my Bible yet, so your Wordle with your daughter-in-law, and that's a fun thing, right? As long as it doesn't suck you in and, make you waste a bunch of time. I think that's really fun. So yeah, so yeah, paying attention to that, I think is a great thing to do. And as we talked about in the podcast a couple of weeks ago, 70 days of our life goes to our phone on average, which means some people are closer to 150 days of their life going to their phone in a year. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time, right? And for not really anything to show for it. Yes, maybe some redeemable things have happened on there. I'm not saying it's all bad, but and that's just our phones. That's not all the other screens that we are interacting with throughout our day. So that is a big one for sure. Okay, the next one is priorities. And I'm just going to give you guys a sneak peek of what this looks like in the planner. There's actually going to be a whole page for this one where you have a lot of space to write your priorities for each of the 8 areas. So right now we just have little boxes, but you're going to have a little bit more space when it comes to this. And here's one where I also say, you don't have to do all 8 right now. Okay. It may be that you are just going to focus on 1 or 2 in this month that really need your time and attention. So pick those out. from these 8, your faith walk, your family, your friendships, your service, which is your work or business or ministry, what are those things you do in there? Your stewardship, which would be finances, wellness, passions, and dwelling. So feel free to just pick 1 or 2 out. And just write, like I would usually pick 1, maybe 2 things in an area of like, this is what I'm going to commit to, right? This is a practice or a rhythm or a habit or something that's specific in this area that I'm going to work on. And then what I'm going to challenge you to do then is to translate it from this is a great idea to when is this actually happening, right? So like this should go in your ideal week plan for this next month so that it's not just like we don't get to next month and you pull out the sheet and you're like, oh yeah, I said I wanted to do that. Didn't even think about it ever since we got off that call, right? That's not gonna bring change, right? We have to take action on it. So pick 1 or 2 areas to start with. You're welcome to, kind of bleed into more if there's time now or later, because we need all 8 and, but not everything needs the same amount of attention. So pick 1 or 2, identify at least 1 thing in that area that you want to make sure you're making time for in this next month. And then I'm going to challenge you right next to it. I want you to say when. So maybe it's something that happens once. So maybe Rochelle, it's the bonfire, and maybe it's going to happen, the last week of the month when it's starting to cool down a little bit, and maybe you're going to invite some friends and the kids are going to invite some friends, right? Or maybe it's something that's happening weekly. So maybe Rochelle, you decide that bonfire night's going to be Friday nights, right? And we're going to have this bonfire after, and so if the girls go to the football game, that's going on when they come back, it's a great place to gather. And it's just kind of, everybody knows Friday night is bonfire night, right? Probably not going to do it daily would be my guess. I mean, unless you're really into bonfires, right? So decide how frequently do I want to do this? Maybe when it gets to like October, November, you could do them every day, but probably not in September. Yeah. So what is it? And then the next step is going to be how frequently do I want to do this in the next month? And then if you can get specific about when and even get it on a calendar while we're here, that is going to exponentially increase the chances of you actually following through on what you said you wanted to do. So that's why I'm gonna have you just pick 1 or 2 areas so we can take those next steps. Hey, here's your next level of accountability. Who wants to put it out there? What's the area? What's the action or the habit or the rhythm or the pattern? What's the thing? How frequently are you committing to doing this? And then when are you planning to do it? You may not have an exact date if it's a one-time thing or something like that, but at least we've got that intention towards what the next step is to get it on a calendar. Who wants to share?
I will.
Great.
I think Mary was talking.
Go ahead, Danielle, because it looks like Mary is muted now. So yeah.
Okay. I had talked about resistance training 3 times a week, and I walk with a neighbor most mornings, but on Tuesdays and Thursdays, she doesn't walk. So I'm going to do it Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday, because those are days that we don't already have walking commitments. And Thursday and Saturday during my AM refill time. And then Tuesdays, I have a really early morning coffee and prayer group. So I'm going to do it between my full-time job and when I start my personal biz, to kind of give myself a break in the day, because Tuesdays are my deadline day in there.
Yeah, and that's kind of nice to build in a buffer transition, like get your brain not looking at a screen, not focusing on numbers, because both of your things are numbers related, like just let me go move and do and maybe sweat a little bit, type of thing. So I love that. Mary, what's yours?
I'm going to do the meal planning, and I've tried it before, but somehow I'm planning for a whole week meal plan seems to just get away from me. So I'm going to try doing it on different days. I'm going to try it on Mondays and Thursdays.
Okay.
That'll coordinate with, trash pickup to clean out the fridge.
I love it. I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
so here's the next step. I'm just going to kind of like help you think through the steps of this. So if you're going to plan on Monday, when are you going to the grocery store so that you have the food for what you planned on Monday? Is that going to happen Monday as well?
I think that'll probably happen on Tuesday. The good
Okay.
news is my husband does that. So
Yeah. Okay. Oh, hey, that's perfect. Even better than Instacart, right? Unless he's bringing things home that you didn't put in the shopping cart order, but there's that, right? I don't know what would happen if I sent my husband to the store with just a list, but okay. Yeah. So like, so again, there's kind of a two-part to it. One is I'm actually doing the planning, and two is when am I actually like picking up the goods so that I have the food to make, the plan. And I love your idea. I love how you looked at something that you want to do and you've tried it a way of doing it once a week. If it doesn't work for you, and that's okay, cause yeah, I don't always know on Thursday when I want to eat next Tuesday, but but so I love that, so see how that works for you. And if you like that, and it may be once you get consistent at doing it twice a week, that it may be like, oh, you know what, let me try once a week. And you may find like, actually, I kind of like doing it once a week, or you may be like, I really like the twice a week because it just gives me more of the back and forth of if I change my mind and things like that. For me, it's kind of a time thing. Go figure, right? Like I want to do it, sit down at one time, get it done for the week. So I know it's taken care of and I don't have to think about it until next week. But for some people, it's like, well, I don't know how I might feel that day or the day before or whatever. And so maybe you want some more fluidity and things, but yeah, I love it. I love it. Anybody else? Those are fun. This is fun. I like this. Anything else that you want to put out there that you're going to do? Let her in. I have a new one I'm starting this month. Some friends and I are starting a fasting Friday practice, and we're doing it specifically for some women that really need extra prayer right now that all of us are connected to. And we're not telling them, so don't tell them that I'm doing this because they don't know. But yeah, so that's a new thing, and just getting that in the rhythm of that. And then we're going to meet up together at least one Friday a month over lunchtime, and not at a restaurant, but at our church, and go in a room and pray specifically together. But I think it's gonna be really cool because we're doing it in community. So even though I won't always be with them on those Fridays, I know that as a collective group, we're doing this, and we're not, there's so many great reasons to fast, for our own spiritual formation and things like that. But, Isaiah 58 talks a lot about doing it on behalf of the poor and the needy, and and not just for ourselves. And so, yeah, so that's anyway. So it's going to be starting on Fridays this month. So we're starting this week. So I guess I'm starting in August. So yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Nikki, glad you're here. We are working through the Planning with God sheet. So I don't know if you have this. If not, go to redeemhertime.com/plan. And you can just jump in where we are. We're just finishing the prioritize section and going on to the plan section. Okay. So planning is checking in with our 12-week plans. Now, I get that. Some of you may be like, what is a 12-week plan? Some of you may be like, okay, I've heard this before and I have yet to really do it. And some of you may be like, I did one, but I have no idea where it is. And some of you are like, I've got it right here. I'm pulling it out. I know exactly where I am. So let me just kind of quick overview. One of the things that I teach is, instead of having these lofty goals, right, that never actually come to fruition, is we can take bigger goals, but we break them down into smaller ones, and then we give them a focus for 12 weeks. How many of you have tried to do like 3 or 4 different projects at the same time? And what happens? You're doing this in your life, and this in your business, and this in your home, and this at your church or whatever. And sometimes that happens, and it just has to be that way. But if you're like me and I'm doing a whole bunch of things at once, nothing gets enough of me long enough for me to either A, stay focused, or B, actually see progress and results. So one of the things we teach inside the CEO program is having a focus for 12 weeks. So if you don't have one and you're like, this is the first time I've ever heard of it, or I don't have one created, amazing. So for the month of September, October, and November, I don't care that it's not officially fourth quarter. So what? We don't run our lives by a calendar, right? Like, what is a focus project or goal that I would like to say, okay, by the end of these 3 months, so that would be the end of September, October, November, by the end of November, this is where I would like to be. It may be like the end all of whatever this is, or it may just be like the next milestone in whatever this is. And then basically we kind of just reverse engineer it. And I'm just going to give you a really quick rundown. I have more details that I teach inside the program, but if this is where I want to be at the end of 3 months, where do I need to be at the end of month 2? So at the end of October, where do I need to be at the end of September? And then inside of each of those, you can break it down by, okay, if I need to be here by the end of September, where do I need to be the end of week 3, the end of week 2, the end of week 1? Because that now breaks it down into tasks. We take this big goal, we break it down into milestones, we break it down into those weekly targets, and now I can break it down into tasks that I don't necessarily have to do daily, right? Depending on what it is, but now all I have to worry about is the one step in front of me. And I know if I take the next step in front of me and then the next one and the next one and the next one, that I will get to that next target and the next milestone. Do our plans always go, exactly according to plan? No, we talked about this at the beginning of our call today, right? But I'm just going to tell you, you're going to get way farther than if you didn't have a plan at all. So I'm going to give us a couple of minutes because I don't know where you're at with this. But I would love for you to drop in the chat. What would you like your 12-month plan to be, or 12-week plan to be? And again, if you're already in the middle of it, amazing. This is what the one I'm working on. Or if you're just starting one, put it in there. For me, my next 12-week plan is the planner. It's launching it. It's getting it out there and figuring out the logistics of getting it to people and stuff like that. It's promoting it on the podcast. It's building a sales page on my website, figuring out how to do the taxes, figuring out how to do like the Shopify part, because now I'll have like a physical product, figuring out like the packaging of how to send it to people, so I've got a lot of moving parts. But by the end of November, right, I want to have sold X number of planners. And so I want you to get as specific as you can in where you want to be, because it's going to help you to know if you got there or not, right? Not just, I want to be healthier. Woohoo. Okay. What does that mean? Right. But we put a number on things, we put a date on things, we put something specific and tangible that I can like hold or measure or touch and be like, yep, I'm here, or wow, I'm way over here. And again, sometimes we put it on there and it's not where we end up because God has different things he was doing, and that's okay too. So I'm looking to see what's in here. Bookkeeping for it all. Yes, I'll need some bookkeeping for it all. I'd love to find the pictures and decorations on our walls. Yay. Okay. So yeah, making it personal and things like that. That's a fun one. And maybe that one, Ruthie, wouldn't take a full, maybe the pictures on the walls, maybe it's going to take you through, 3 months or 12 weeks. Maybe that one.
It probably will.
Okay. Well then, okay. Then I was going to say, otherwise you could have like mini projects, or like catching
I
up
would
on
be
Scrapbook.
thrilled.
Scrapbook is the thing that I'm always like, I'm so far behind. In fact, I need to do my daughter's from her birthday and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to at least jot out, if you don't have it somewhere, where do I want to be at the end of 12 weeks? And then what are my 3 monthly milestones on that, or 3, kind of steps towards getting to that place. And then you can start working, once you've kind of got that framework, you can start breaking that down inside of those to see where you're going. Cat Cafe paperwork. Oh, and the Shelter Love program. I just saw somebody today, Nikki, I thought of you. I was on Alignable and they were asking if coaches had thought about using like animal therapy in what they were doing or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, never thought about that, but I'm sure there are people like you who think about those things all the time. So anyway, you came to mind today when I was thinking about that.
Okay. All right on this thing. No.
I'll just give a little plug for the CEO program. When you come in the CEO program, you get a template to fill out when you're doing your 12-week plan. So that's what I'm working on. I printed one this morning knowing I had to start a new one. Oh, and I love this. One of the questions on the template is, what is your reward? When you accomplish this, like, it is okay to put a little carrot at the end and be like, and this is what I'm going to do. I'll have to think about that. I'll give you a tip. When you're doing 12-week planning and you're just starting, you know where you're going, the first step is to make a brain dump. What are all the things that I think are related to this? Get them all out of your head, get them all down on paper. Then you can start categorizing them and seeing what kind of goes together. Is there an order to this? Is there, a this, then that type of thing? Because that will then help you to create, like, what are my monthly milestones? What are those weekly targets that I'm wanting to hit? So that I'm like, kind of almost like steps across, like a river where there's like the stepping stones, right? Like I want to get from one side to the other.
Lisa?
Yeah.
Can you explain like if, because this is kind of a month thing, right? So like under monthly milestones, I put September, October, and November and like put specific things.
Mhm.
But then like weekly target and daily tasks,
Mhm.
what do we put in those spaces?
Okay, so say for example, that your monthly target for September is your living room wall. Okay,
That is, it's
say you're
exactly
doing
what it
different
is.
walls. Okay, so
Yeah.
perfect, right? So the weekly one is just a way of breaking that down because it's very, it could feel very overwhelming to be like, I
Mhm.
gotta figure out exactly what to do here. So maybe as you're thinking about it, you're like, okay, well, I would like to have the pictures. I'm gonna have to pick pictures, right? I'm gonna have to print them. Then I have to get frames for them, and then I have to figure out the layout of them. So maybe those
Right.
become like your 4 weekly things, and then it's, again, it's kind of stair stepping. Now, do you have to be like, well, I have to wait till next Friday to do this because that's what my plan says? You
Right.
don't have to. But the whole idea
But
is we're taking something like, okay, there's a lot of steps involved in this, and it's kind of big. So how
you
do I
break
break
it
this
down.
down into like doable things?
Okay.
And then maybe your October one is, and now I want to do the kitchen, or now I want to do the family room or the rec room, or maybe it's a different room, or maybe it's like,
Right.
okay, well, now that I did that, like, what else do I want to personalize around the house? And maybe you pick something different for the next month. So is
Okay.
that helpful?
Yes.
Okay. And I always do this in pencil because things change and things get, you should see my last one. I mean, there were so many notes written all over it and things that, but it was something to keep coming back to. And so one of the things I highly recommend, you might be just barely getting started with this, block some time to finish laying this out. Like that's what I'm going to do with mine because it is not complete. I have a lot of moving pieces to do on mine. Block some time this week that you're going to do that. So when September starts, you have a fresh whole month to work on it, right? And then I'm going to also encourage you block time on your calendar each week for doing those things. Okay, so make it your 12-week plan block, or your, whatever you want to call it. Wall art, if that's the one that you're working on, or whatever it is, right? Like put that time on your calendar as you're doing your weekly planning, because again, we don't want it to just be this piece of paper that gets buried, in the pile of all the other pieces of paper that happen to be on our desk, right? So we get a plan and then we go, okay, and when am I making time for this? And then when that block comes up, it's that trigger to come back to this piece of paper and be like, okay, this is week 1. Where am I? And sometimes we get off track or sometimes things have to change. We didn't expect something. I had a lot of different things with my timeline of the planner to get into the sample phase just because of things from the designer and things from the planner. And then I wanted to add something, or then I noticed something and hey, can we change this? And, so it's okay. Right? It's in pencil. And eventually, like everything got completed and pretty close to the time I needed it to stay on track with everything. So it's okay if plans change. That's why we do it in pencil. Okay. My next project to work on a masterclass. Love it. Okay. But, oh, sorry, I didn't see the but yet. But I was recently asked to do some software training. Now I'm wondering about whether I'm a community group membership with some kind of support. Oh, okay. This would be a good thing. I'm going to say, put that in our CEO, in our circle. I would love to do some, like, let's talk through what would be a good focus of your time, in there. And especially since we don't have spotlight coaching this week, I don't want you to wait on that until next week. So yeah, drop that in there in any details you can. So just a promo for the CEO program. When you've got things that you want support or input or ideas or feedback and stuff like that we have a private inner circle for those who are working in the coaching program where, yeah, we do that. And we help each other figure those things out, because sometimes we can only see what we can see, right? Or we don't know all the different, things to think through, or just need some outside perspective, or maybe it's just affirmation of what you already feel like you're supposed to be doing next. So okay, so that was our plan, checking with our 12-week plans. So you're looking ahead and saying, what is this next month's milestone? Do I know what that is? What are the weekly targets that I'm looking for in each week? And what are some of the tasks that I'm going to do? So again, I just kind of gave you a general thing on this sheet, but if you have the planner or you're doing it more details on a big sheet of paper, you'll have that. Okay, the next one is preview. Here's where we actually start looking at our calendar. Notice we haven't done anything with our calendar yet, and it's 47 minutes into our call. That's because our time is really about my heart and what matters and what needs to get my priority. And then I go into my planner. Okay. So worst thing, I know Ruthie and I have had this conversation. So Ruthie, I think of you when I think of this, like, we don't want to go into a month and be like, surprise, oops, didn't realize that was happening. Oops, not ready for the birthday. Oops, I'm not saying this is all Ruthie, but like, like, especially if something's happening on the 1st or the 2nd, like, I mean, how like, defeating is that when you turn the page of the calendar and you're already behind, you're like, I totally forgot about this. So we are looking ahead. Okay. So here's where maybe you're already doing a good job of getting things on your calendar. Maybe you have things on a digital calendar that you need to get into a paper planner. Maybe you have things on a paper planner that you need to block off at that time on a digital calendar. So I teach a hybrid of using both, but there's something about having it in writing as well that helps. So as you're looking ahead, what are your commitments that you're needing to make sure you're blocking that time off for, and maybe even preparing for? Maybe you're going to give a training, and so you have to do some work on that. Maybe you're going to a meeting. I'm going to a retreat with my coach in the month of September. So I've got prep to do in order to leave the house, and then stuff that I want to make sure I'm doing when I'm there. And then I literally come home to a house full of guys, like they're going to be here for the weekend. My husband has a shooting range on our property, and so he hosts this annual retreat. It's literally like I will get up at I get home at like midnight, and they will show up the next morning. Some will probably already be here when I get home. So yes, I'm planning ahead of time so that the groceries are ordered and the house is cleaned and everything is ready to go. So what commitments, appointments, meetings, or dates do I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to? Or maybe you need to make an appointment, get that down, right? What personal events or projects are coming up? So for example, my husband's weekend thing coming up, he and I need to sit down and go through who's staying at the house, how many beds do I have to have prepared, like who's all going to be here for breakfast. I try to keep the food stuff pretty simple, but so those kinds of things. What personal events, projects, and business events or ministry events or whatever it is for work. What are those things? So I'll give you a few minutes to kind of look at your calendar, make sure you have those things on there, make sure birthdays and anniversaries, those things you want to remember. If you have kids in school, are there any holidays that they're going to be like a half day or full day off in the next month? It's always nice to know and not plan something else and then find out like, oh, shoot, forgot that you're going to be home, all day. So I'll give you a few minutes to open up that calendar. And this is where like the new planner will have a monthly spread, because there's something about being able to see your whole month at a glance, right? And see how everything flows. And then after the monthly spread, then I teach you how to do the weekly planning. Look at this cool little bookmark. It says you have time. That will remind you all the time when you feel like you don't have time and you're behind, you have time. But that monthly spread is really important so you can see how the flow of everything goes. And here's a good place too. Put those Sabbaths in, put those Selahs in as you're looking at your month. Ooh, things are starting to pile up. I'm going to need to make sure I block off some time for me, or I'm not going to have any margin or bandwidth to, to do stuff. So. And just one more quick little thing, and then I'll be quiet. On the side of the monthly plan of that month spread, you couldn't see it probably, but I give you the different checklist things that you need to make sure go on that monthly calendar. So you're thinking through each of those categories as you go, and not being like, oh shoot, I forgot about that category. I didn't think about that. Like as I was just putting my Sabbaths on there, I realized there are 5 Sundays in September, which means I serve in children's ministry in the nursery on the last one. So I better make sure I put that down just so I don't forget. Don't forget the reoccurring things like, oh, I have this meeting every week. So is that on there just so it's triggering in your mind? I've had times where like I didn't put like a reoccurring meeting with some of my clients, and then I would have totally just gone without it because my brain wasn't even looking at it. So even I need that sometimes too, as well as kind of the one-time things. What are you excited to see on your calendar this month as we're doing this? Hopefully you're not going, but maybe you are. That's okay. but hopefully they're good things that are going on there. Like, what excites you when you look at the month of September and you're like, oh, this I get to, or this is coming, or wow, it's time for. I know for me, it's going
This
to.
isn't
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this isn't a surprise. I have known about this, but my 30-year high school reunion is September. So yeah, we're gonna have to fly to Dyersburg, Tennessee. Actually, we can't fly there. There's no airport, but we have to fly to Memphis and then drive there.
And then drive there. Fun.
Yeah.
Have you been keeping in contact with people, or is this going to be like, I haven't talked to you
I
in
mean,
50 years and
Yeah, yes, but I somehow ended up as part of the planning committee. I'm not even actually
course you
sure
did.
how that happened. Because I have a paid Zoom account and we needed to meet to kind of discuss it. I was like, I don't mind hosting it, but so anyway, so there's several people I'm still in touch with, but there's several I need to kind of put that actually on my list to
Yeah.
nudge them and be like, I haven't seen your RSVP. Are you coming?
right? Yeah. Yeah. And then thinking about what do you need to do at home before you leave. And then here's the big thing. Whenever you're gone, I'm like, build that buffer in before you go. So you're not like, rat race up until the minute you hop on a plane, and then
Yeah.
buffer when you come back to give yourself that time to come back into the rhythms and routines. And sometimes we have more
Mhm.
luxury and buffers than not, but yeah, at least paying attention to what am I need to think about as I'm heading out and coming back. Orlando trip with my middle and youngest and daughter-in-law. So that'll be fun. Disney Day. Yay. Cat Cafe events every weekend. Hopefully that's good. I don't know if you're doing any fair stuff, Nikki. My husband's working the fair right now. And he said there wasn't as much action today as there was over the weekend. And then of course there'll be their Labor Day weekend and there'll be lots of stuff happening. But he was sending me some pictures today from stuff that was happening there. Again, hopefully there are good things that are going on your calendar. So for me, it's going to this retreat because I'm going to get to room with two of my business besties. And we all happen to work with the same coach. And so then we're going to get poured into for 3 days and be in Florida for a few days. So looking forward to that. And that's been on the calendar for a while too. So it's kind of one of those like, yay, it's finally here. So, okay, previewing. And maybe some of those preview things we're looking at are not so fun, but like it just has to be done. That's okay. Because it's the joy in the accomplishing, like we talked about in the beginning. Okay, so when it comes all down to it, our last P is pace. Because you could be looking right now at your priorities, you could be looking at your plans, you could be looking at your previewing, you could be looking at, these all these other things and going, oh my goodness, right? So if you didn't already plan in some Sabbaths or some Selahs, this is permission and direction to do that now. You don't have to be working 24/7. Right? Like we can trust God with 24 hours, or we can trust him with, 6 hours of work time and then being done, or whatever that looks like for you. Taking the time to go for the walk, or to go on date night, or to, I don't know, whatever it is, take the bath, or whatever those things are. What are you intentionally going to do this month to slow down your body, your mind, your spirit? Journaling is a great thing for that, right, Rochelle? Like that's a great way to kind of like slow down and be present to your thoughts and things like that. So you don't necessarily have to put one for each category, body, mind, and spirit, but I encourage you to be thinking of things holistically. So you may have one for each one, or maybe something that hits on a couple of them. So what are you going to do this month to slow down the pace of your body, mind, soul, and spirit? I love ideas, so I'd love to hear something that's on your list. What do you do to slow down? Make sure you don't get ahead of yourself. Toga tailgate for football game? Is that what's slowing you down, or is that from something earlier? Sorry, I just saw it.
That was just what I'm looking forward to.
Okay, that sounds fun.
We only have so many. We have like 5 home games, and my daughter, one of the dancers on the dance team. And so we're in charge. All of us moms, have our designated game that we will deck it all out pretty much. So we bring all the food, all the drinks, all the decorations for the girls. They have their special chairs. It is amazing what people do here in the South.
Crazy, but that's fun. Those are fun memories you'll look back on, and yeah, love that. I love that. Yoga Nidra. What in the world is that? Did I even say it right?
You did. Yeah,
Okay.
that's close enough. That's how I say it. It's like usually you can get like a guided meditation from YouTube or somewhere, and it's basically a nervous system reset. So it guides you through like progressive relaxation, like paying attention to whatever, like what am I hearing? And things that usually my mind is racing about so many other things, but it's like a mindfulness thing that is systematically like kind of helping you recharge your nervous system. And it's
We
been
need to be
scientifically,
recharged. Yes.
yeah, it's scientifically shown to like it puts your brain into like a, I don't know if it's alpha or beta pattern, I don't know, but it's like getting a bunch of sleep in a short amount of time because of what it does. And I've been using it kind of randomly, but I'm like, wow, this is surprisingly helpful.
Yeah. So how often do you plan to do that? I'm curious.
At this point, I'm doing it as needed, and
Okay.
I'm trying to decide if I tried to make it a discipline, I think it would lose its appeal. I think,
Mm.
yeah, but at least for me at this point, like it's a treat for my nervous system, I'll put it that way. But if I tried to
Yeah.
make it a discipline, I think I would take something away from it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And there's no right or wrong to that. It can be an as needed, a PRN as they call it in the medical world, or it can be preventative. And I'm doing this on a whatever basis in order to not get to the point where
Yeah.
I'm frazzled and stressed and needing it. Nap,
Yeah.
walk, bath, journal, worship music, mini Bible devotional, love it. My daughter was at camp this summer and had a lot of new worship songs. So I was like, we have like a worship playlist that she and I share, but I was like, can we create a new one with like the new ones? And so like, I've just had that on repeat, as long as she's not on it. Bubble bath too. Yeah. Slow down and forced relaxation, except it always cools off too fast for me. So then I'm like, I don't feel like I like have enough time, but I don't, yeah, we have a big tub. So if I ever do it, it does take a lot. So good. Well, I want to make sure that yes, life is not all about doing and checking boxes and getting through the day and through the week and through the month and finishing our plans and all of that. Like it's being present to the what matters to the Lord, ultimately to the key relationships in our life, to the work that we're called to. And that takes, pausing throughout our days and weeks and months so that we are paying attention to where we are and where he is and what's needing our time and attention. So I always love to end at this time with prayer. And it's cool because I was literally reading Ephesians 3 this morning, and that's the verse in the bottom of here is now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond all we could ask or imagine. That's 4 superlatives for those of you who remember what a superlative is, which is like an extra, extra, extra adjective, right? All beyond we could ask or imagine, to him be the glory. So let me pray over our month, and look at this. We're like right on time and finishing in an hour. And I don't know about you, but I feel like we did a lot in our time here today. So Lord, thank you for this time. And God, we know that you are the author of time. God, we've made plans. We've looked ahead today. We've set priorities. We've asked for accountability on different things. And yet we hold all of those things loosely because ultimately we want you to guide our steps. And so I just pray for each woman who's here tonight and anyone who's going back with the replay that you would just put that peace in our hearts that can only come from you, despite what is on our calendars. I pray that you would remind us that we have time because you give it to us as this generous gift every single morning. And I pray that we would desire to steward it, to see it not as ours, but yours, and not for our own purposes or comfort, but to build your kingdom and to do those things that will last for eternity, the well beyond us. And so, God, we thank you for what you will do in this next month. And I can't wait to hear the praise report a month from now and looking back and seeing the ways that you intersected our plans and that you made them even better. And so we just give you the glory in advance and leave all these things in your hands. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, thanks for being here, you guys. I cannot wait for the Find the Time challenge. I'm just going to tell you, like, I have so much peace. Like, I'm so like ready for this. Like, let's do this. I'm even like, what am I going to do tomorrow morning? I have like nothing to do in the morning until we start. I'm going to be like, let's go. I'm sure I'll go back through stuff again and spend some time journaling with the Lord, but it's going to be a really neat time to just look at our time again from a different perspective. So I hope to see you there, or at least watching or listening to the replays on the podcast or on the challenge dashboard. So redeemhertime.com/time if you have not registered yet. And if you would do me a favor right now, before whatever is waiting outside that door needs your time and attention, think of 1 or 2 people that you can send that link to and say, hey, this is starting tomorrow. I thought of you. Like, let's get a different perspective on our time as we head into the season. So, all right, well, I will see you guys next month, hopefully, if not before. And I'll look forward to what God does with our time.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.